Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to another episode of the Steve and Dan Show. If you've watched the show before, you probably have a bit of an idea of how this goes. Just to quickly explain, by the way, I'm not sitting in a sort of priest's confession booth. This is actually a co-working office in Warsaw. So apparently when you're on a call or a webinar or something, you have to go in these little soundproof booths so you don't disturb people.
I think just you,
yeah.
you have to go into it after disturbing the office last week.
Exactly. Yeah, I did one in an office, and the office, the top of the offices, they have not actually sealed walls. They have like weird panels, so it's just kind of open plan. So I'm sitting there doing a webinar, just chatting away, and not realizing the entire office can just be going off on one. Anyway, another story. So yeah, if this is the first time that you're watching, bit of a quick intro of myself. Name's Dan Holloway. I come from a career in corporate software sales. And essentially the reason I started an online business is I was working 70 hours per week and earning really good money, but kind of feeling pretty unfulfilled, trading all of my time for that money and not being able to live the life that I wanted to do, I wanted to live. So my realization, or wake up call, as you probably call it, was realizing that any income goal I had in the past, as soon as I hit that, nothing would really change. And so therefore, why did I think that an even bigger income goal in the future was going to change anything? As soon as I realized that, I knew I needed to change my path. I discovered SFM. I started an online business, and 13 months later, here we are in a confession booth in Warsaw. Steve, you'd like to give a bit of an intro, please, of yourself?
Absolutely. Forgive me, Dan, for I have sinned. My name's Steve, husband, father, entrepreneur. Started and grown several businesses over the years. And I always did that because I wanted to spend more time with my family. I wanted to have my schedule free. I wanted to be in control of my schedule and be able to do what I wanted, when I wanted, with who I wanted. And I found out that, the hard truth of owning your job is that your customers really control your life, and the business can really control your life. And that's not what I wanted. That's not why I got into business for myself. I wanted to be able to spend time with my family and have a bit more freedom than I wound up having. Good money for sure, but not what I wanted. So went looking for something else, came across the SFM, and here we are now. So that's how I got to here. And our guest today is Cordelia. So great to have you with us. We appreciate you spending the time. Do you want to introduce yourself and give a little bit of your background?
Yeah, sure. My name's Cordelia, and I've got 3 children, and I'm a registered nurse. And same kind of reason, the same reason why I joined the SFM was the fact that I wanted a life that had more freedom. I wanted my own business that would be able to give me the opportunity to be able to stay at home with my children, spend more time with them, go on more than one holiday a year, and just basically live life on my terms. Didn't actually realise it was quite as possible as this. It was all the kids are home, by the way.
Yep.
Didn't quite realise it was going to happen like this. I was going to run an eBay business, and basically it was just really, really hard work. And so then I was looking for something else and stumbled across the SFM through watching a YouTube video. So yeah, that's me. I'm awesome. Here, and it's great. It's a really, really great journey. I'm really enjoying it.
I think it's fair to say, Cordelia, that your journey in SFM has been probably, just like say, a bit of a whirlwind, right? You've inspired an awful lot of people very quickly. I think you joined July the 14th or so, and then obviously quickly made progress through the company. First sale online, literally less than 3 months later, which is actually quicker than me. So I was like, amazing work, well done. And while working 13-hour shifts as a nurse with 3 kids, and there's me quitting my job and going full-time SFM, and the rate that you did that was absolutely remarkable. So met you in Phoenix, Arizona. I think it's fair to say that we both had an absolutely brilliant time at that event. What would you say in your 3 months so far, right? What would you say has been some of your, biggest lessons that you've learned, or, the biggest impact moments that have influenced you to make that progress really quickly?
Well, I totally resonate what you say about it just all happening so fast. For me, I constantly describe it as Alice in Wonderland falling down the rabbit hole, because it's just what I felt like. I wasn't actively looking for it, and then when I clicked on that ad, I all of a sudden became obsessed and was spending every spare second on it. So, it has been a whirlwind the last few months, and trying to think of one main thing is just like really difficult, because on a daily basis at the moment, my life is completely changing. There are so many things, like big and small, happening to me all the time, and it's because of this journey. But the reason why I think I've made such progress so fast is, one, having some epic friends that have really been very supportive, and two, being very focused. And when I say focused, I mean focusing on like one or two things to get me to my goal, rather than trying to do everything all at the same time. And yeah, so I had my goal, and then I just worked out what steps I needed to get to that, and I kept my blinkers on and didn't let anything distract me from that. And whilst I do 13-hour shifts, it means that I've got 4 hours or 2 hours, sometimes just an hour in a day to get something done. And it kind of means that I get a lot done within that time, because I've got a list of what I need to do, and I just go through it one at a time, turn off Facebook and just focus on that. And yeah, I think that's why. He agrees.
He agrees. That's awesome. That's so great. Being so focused really, I think, helps you get the work done when you know you've got a short amount of time. So many people fall into the trap of, I've got all this time, and they let the work expand to take that amount of time. That's a great message there.
Sure.
What about perspectives? You've been in it long enough now to really understand what it takes, and the work that you've got to put in to get to where you are, to get to the next level. How is that different than what you thought it was when you first saw the ad, your perception? And, have you had other experiences? Is this your first online business, or have you tried? You said, yeah, the eBay business. You had tried that. So how is this different than what you thought it would be, and how does it compare to the eBay business?
Oh my goodness, it doesn't compare at all. I mean, for me, the eBay business, I knew I wanted an online business, right? I didn't know what I wanted, but I knew that I wanted an online business. So for me, the eBay business was something that I understood, right? I'd been kind of selling things on and off on eBay since I was 16. I could do that, so that's what I focused on. But,
everybody okay?
Right, it's fine. In reality, it was really, really, really hard work. Because there were great big massive heavy boxes that I had to lug around, because we decided for some reason that our niche would be ride on electric cars, which is like really, really not a very good thing to sell, because one, they're electrical, so they go faulty all the time, and two, they're for children, so there's a lot of legal stuff involved in it. So it was a complete slog. But yeah, so then when we started that, and we really did go all in, we set up a limited company, we built a warehouse at the bottom of our garden, we really did go all in, and then just realised how much I hated it a few months later. And then kind of went back to the drawing board, right, I need an online business. I remember doing Google searches, like, what can I do? And I was like, web designer, marketing, like all these things are just complicated. I don't know anything about any of it. Like, I'm not going to be able to do these things. So I just kind of gave up, really. And it was in the back of my mind that I wanted to do something. I didn't know what, I didn't know how. But yeah, that's why I say, like, in my ad, I even say that I was literally doing the ironing. I was upstairs doing the ironing, listening to something on YouTube when Dan's ad came up, and he's the one that sort of made me stop and think, oh, is this what I'm looking for? And then I clicked on that. So in terms of does it compare, it completely doesn't compare. I mean, I know I will never ever go into any kind of retail ever again. Like, absolutely hated it. In fact, to the point where I'm probably now a bit phobic about it. But it doesn't. It's so much easier, and it's a lot of fun. It's being creative, and the human interaction side of it is very, very different, because when you're selling products to people, the interaction with people is how long is it going to take? Where is my product? My product is faulty. And it's dealing with complaints, and it's dealing with, you know, people needing information about product dimensions and stuff like that. It's all very dull. But when you're in this kind of business, the human interaction is just like something else, because we're talking about people's stories, changing people's lives, you know, helping people develop themselves. And that is just like my favorite aspect of this business, the people that I get to meet. And you don't get that with an eBay business.
That's
no, not
so
at all.
true.
Yeah, and I think just to pick up on that as well, I mean, Cordelia, you've talked about like the community, like friends you've had in the community. Can't think who, but you've been like really immersed, right, in SFM and the community as a whole. So you've been in a relatively short amount of time. Everybody knows your name. Everybody knows who you are. You've really gone all in very quickly, immersed yourself and surrounded yourself with people who are all looking to achieve the same goal. Like you've had no fear of throwing yourself out there. And then combine that with the focus and the one-track mind that you've mentioned of thinking, right, here's my goal. This is what I want to do. What steps do I need to take to get there and block everything else out? And that is the mistake that we see so many people make in business in general. It's like shiny object syndrome. You know, you look at one opportunity, you go, oh, that looks good. And then something else comes up and you go, oh, what about this? And people flip between stuff and they do stuff that's not ultimately going to get them to where they want to go. So talk to us for a second about the community, how the community's helped you, how immersing with everyone around you that's on this journey with you has really helped you to move forward and make the progress that you have.
My niece just interrupted and I just totally missed the question.
That's okay.
I'm juggling. This is me. This is my life. This is real.
Exactly. This is what it's all about.
Exactly. And the fact you can spend time with your kids, that's the important thing. You know, it's why you're doing it. And I love that. So the question was, in short, bless your niece. The question was, what has the community enabled you to, or how has the community helped you make the progress that you have in your journey so far?
It's like the richness of connections. Have you ever, like, you know, needed to do something or needed to know something and just thought, God, I wish I was friends with a plumber right now, or I wish I was friends with an architect right now, or something like that. And then being in the SFM is like having a phone book full of professional people that are just not only really, really fun to be with, but very, very useful. And so, you know, I've got a friend who's a videographer. I've got another friend who's a professional photographer. I've got another friend who's very good at public speaking. I've got another friend who's a writer. I've got a friend who's, I don't know, I've run out of ideas now, but there are literally so many people that I'm now very good friends with. And it's not a case of me saying, oh yeah, you know, I've got loads of people that I can use. But, you know, these people like are really, really just amazing to be around, very, very fun to be around, very passionate, very driven. And it's a support network like no other, because they've got that kind of same mindset as you. And being able to ask somebody, you know, about something really, really technical that would otherwise take me a very, very long time to figure out. For instance, conversion tracking. Like, I didn't even know what conversion tracking was until a week ago, when a very good friend of mine, Dan Holloway, pointed me in the direction of some training on it. So, you know, it's things like that. It's things like having, and a lot of these trainings are provided by people that are in the community as well. It's not all just come from SFM. So we're all learning from each other, and a lot of people are at different levels and have done a lot of other things. I mean, there's another friend that I've got that's been a been a marketer in a different aspect for the last 10 years, and he's got a lot of knowledge on a lot of things. So it's just like having all these connections, you know, the plumber, the electrician, all the sort of people that you really wish you knew, all in one big swimming pool.
That's great. Definitely. I know I rely on the community a lot as well. Is there one thing that you thought was going to be really difficult that turned out to be a lot easier? A perception, maybe, building your own website. Maybe you've done that before with the eBay site. I don't know whether it's building a website or shooting videos or setting up autoresponders. Was there one thing that you thought was going to be really daunting, and then by the time you got through it, it really, you look back on it, went, that wasn't so bad?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing for me is kind of public speaking and being on camera. And you wouldn't think it. I mean, anybody that knows me thinks that I'm just the most confident out there kind of girl there is. But inside, I do have moments of insecurity, and I think I cover it up with a big personality sometimes. And also, it's kind of the getting my words out how I mean to express them thing. I have this kind of, and I don't know if this is the belief that I've got, and then I manifest it into being, but I kind of manage to mince my words, or not manage to be able to get my words out, or I can't think of a word, and it's like really annoying. So it means that how I try and talk, I don't feel very articulate. You know, like if I try and have a conversation with my dad, who's like a Cambridge graduate, architect, really, really intelligent guy, he always wins because I just can't get the words out. I mean, so, you know, it's like, that was quite difficult. Me trying to explain something, trying to use my words and my speaking skills to convey messages to people is quite daunting. But I'm actually kind of, you know, getting a bit better at that, I think. You wouldn't believe from watching this video, but I think I'm actually getting a bit better at it and getting more confident. And there's, within the SFM, you know, you may or may not know, I know you two obviously know, but whoever's watching this, that there's a 90-day video challenge. You know, the idea is to post one video of yourself every day, talking about, you know, whatever you want really, but that's definitely really, really helped. And out of that, and if you'd have told me this 3 months ago, I'd have laughed in your face. But out of that has come me deciding that I'm really passionate about vlogging, and I really want to be a vlogger. And, you know, I'm like really into that. I really enjoy it. Really enjoy making videos. Really enjoy, you know, being creative and being able to do that kind of thing. So, yeah, definitely. That's something that I'm terrified of, and I never thought I would have enjoyed so much.
Well, that's what, and that was going to be my follow-up was, you know, how did you get through it? What do you think was the key to getting through it? But I guess you already answered that in the 90-day video challenge is what got you through. Was there any other than just committing to that? Was there any training or any method? Did you do anything to get yourself ready to do those videos every day? Because doing the 90-day video challenge is one thing, but you've got to actually do the work.
Yeah, I guess I'm in this space at the moment where I am pushing myself out of my comfort zone. I'm the yes man. You know, I'm terrified of heights, but I want to jump out of a plane. I want to do these crazy things that terrify me, and that's the space that I'm in at the moment. So forcing myself to do things that make me uncomfortable is where I'm at, and I think just being committed to that kind of mindset is you know, the thing that's pushed me along. Because I think, you know, there's so many people that do that 90-day video challenge and give up on day 20, day 30 or whatever. And there's so many people that, you know, will commit to something and then, you know, like think of New Year resolutions and stuff. But I'm quite in this space at the moment where I'm very, very committed to growing and getting a lot out of this. And I really have a vision in mind. And I think that's another key, is just having a very clear vision in your mind of what it is you want to achieve from something and where you want to go. Because if you haven't, I mean, it's a bit like when I was at school, I didn't go to school. I left school at 13, I didn't go. But when I was at nursing school, I stayed at school. I stayed there and I completed the course and I got a distinction. And I think the two main differences is when you're at school, you don't have that vision. You know that you're going to go on and do more education and probably do something at some point. But when you know, there's not a clear goal at the end of it. And when you're at university and you've got a clear career at the end of it, it's much easier to get through because you can see that goal. It's the same with visualizing every day or however often you want to visualize. If you've got a clear goal in your mind and you know what you want, it's much easier to get there and it's much easier to commit and stay committed.
Yeah, for sure. No, you've hit on three things that are utterly crucial, and I think three things that in some respect often hold people back, either one of the three or all three of the three sometimes, right? So it's having the goal, having the target, aiming for something, and then having the ability to overcome fear. So I talk about what would you do if you were 10 times bolder, and really just pushing your comfort zones, and then finally having that mindset of whatever it takes, being committed, right? And that is absolutely key. So let's just talk about that for a second. You've, again, 3 months, come in, made fantastic progress. You talked about the whole fearing coming out on camera thing. Now you want to do vlogging. Also, as well, you're going to be speaking on stage with me in Perth, you know, so very short amount of time for someone to come on the stage. Again, incredible progress. And it's just that whole idea of, well, look, if you just keep doing the things that scare you, you move forward bit by bit by bit by bit. 3 months ago, I bet if someone said to you, Cordelia, hey, by the way, you're going to be speaking on stage in front of hundreds of people about your journey in online business, you'd have been like, what? No way, that's not happening. What on earth? Why would I do that? Right? And I know that because I was the same. I had exactly the same experience. And so a point here that I want to make is let's imagine that someone is watching this video here, this show, and they haven't taken the first step. They want to build an online business. They want to create a life of freedom. They've got goals that they want to achieve, but they haven't taken the first step. I hear this a lot in people who email me. Now, for someone who's in that position and is thinking, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I have the skills. I don't know if I'm going to be able to overcome the fear. You know, I don't know if it's for me. I don't know if I'm too old or if I have the time or whatever, right? There's something holding them back. What would you say to someone who's in that space, who wants to move forwards, but they're stopping themselves move forwards for some reason because they can't overcome a challenge? What would you say to someone who's in that space to help them get out their own way, just take that first step and just go for it?
Well, it's quite a difficult question, but I think it's more a case of, what was I going to say? It's a case of being able to right, basically like knowing what it is that you want, right? And then, oh, mine's gone blank. What was it?
No, it happens to me as well. Happens to the best of us.
Honestly, I'm shot away. This is what I mean, right? Prime example. There we go. I just answered the question myself. If I can do it, you can do it. Right? It is that, like, you know, it's not. I mean, we've got people in the community that have come in after retirement and are doing very well.
Yeah.
You know, these limits that people put up for themselves, it's not true. It's not true. That's what I was going to say. I was going to say that you kind of have like an internal guidance system. And whether you're a follower of the law of attraction or not, you know, you use it all the time. Something feels good or something feels bad. Something feels exciting. Something can feel bad, scary, and something can feel exciting, scary. You know, like if something feels good, then lean into it. If something feels good, scary, lean into it. If something feels bad, scary, like you're going to get like into trouble here, like, you know, there's a man chasing you down the street, don't lean into that, right? That's not what I'm saying. But you know, you have to, like,
great advice.
It feels, you know, yeah. But this is it. You know, if it feels like, for me, the reason why I joined the SFM and I joined at I positioned at such a high level so quickly is not because I knew the ins and outs of what was going to happen. It's not because I knew the ins and outs of what DEA Black was. It's not because I knew what the SFM was going to do for me. If I'm honest with you, I didn't have a clue what any of that meant, really. I didn't really know that well what digital marketing was. I did because I'd watch module 1 and stuff, but it was, you know, I didn't really know like what I was getting myself into, but it felt like the next logical step. And I completely, for the first time ever in my life, had a feeling that it just felt right, and I just went with it. And even though I had all these fears in my mind, and my husband was like terrified, and my dad, well, I didn't tell my mum and dad because I knew they would kick off. I just went along with it because it felt like the next logical step. And I think if it excites you and you feel like you'll regret it if you don't do it, then go for it. Because do you want to live a life with regret? That's the question. I don't.
That is a great question.
That's great. That is great. Do you want to live life with regret? I love that. What about moms? Obviously, you know, you're working a full-time professional career. That takes a lot of your time. 3 kids takes a lot of your time. What would you say to somebody else who's in that position and feels that, you know, they're already, I know there's a lot of mommy guilt around taking time away from their kids. And then, you know, you're already at work and then you're going to take more time to build this business. How would you counsel somebody in that position?
Well, are your children in a good routine? Because I mean, my children are in bed by 7 o'clock every night. They literally can't cope if they don't go to bed at 7. Sometimes they're in bed at like 6:30 if I'm desperate to watch Dan's webinar. But other than that, they're in bed by 7, right? So that gives me a good chunk of time in the evening to get something done. Okay, I'm studying at the moment. I'm not cooking dinner in the evening. I'm not watching telly, and I'm not doing all these other things that I normally do. The house is probably a little bit messier than it normally would be, but the sacrifice has got to happen somewhere. And so I've quit watching telly, I've quit cooking dinner, and I just focus on, studying. It's like my study period. Even though I'm actually earning whilst I'm learning, it's still studying. Your first 1,000 leads is your digital education. Yeah. And so it is study time. I've gone back into study mode. And I think that, it's definitely possible. I mean, there's definitely an hour here or there that you can steal. I mean, my kids are now getting to the age where they're at school, so I've got a good chunk of time in the day. And where I work shift work, that does mean that I have the odd weekday off, which is really cool. But then there's evenings, and I'm just really, really, I think the key is enjoying it. If you don't enjoy something, you're not going to want to spend every spare second on it. But I really, really enjoy this. So instead of turning the telly on, I'm opening the laptop, and that's a choice. That's not me going, oh, I've got to do more work now. That's me going, yes, kids are in bed, I can do some work, and it's good work. I really, really enjoy it. So it's all about, again, like how you feel. If you feel like you enjoy it, then it's much easier to spend more time on it.
Yeah, for sure.
And about time management, you have to juggle everything. And if you're a mum, you're bloody brilliant at that. You're so good at that. Like, we're the best jugglers ever. I mean, there's no trouble with juggling when you're a mum. And so it should be much easier for you than it is for, single working men.
Dads, yeah.
Single unemployed men.
Yeah, 100%. But no, again, that's such an important point. And the question that Steve's just asked and the answer that you've given about, like, first of all, enjoying it. And again, I think that comes into having the goal. If you have the goal and the direction and the passion that's driving you, that passion is going to pull you forward to want to spend time on it because you're enjoying it, because it's working towards something. But also as well, like, I want to kind of just draw attention to what you said there, Steve, about the guilt thing, like maybe not spending time with kids because you're working on the business, right? And it's almost like a paradoxical logic, because people will say, I haven't got the time to create time freedom, or I can't afford to create financial freedom. And it's like, well, that is so backwards. I just don't get that. Like, people not wanting to invest, for example, in pushing themselves forward so that they can learn how to never need to worry about money again, or not wanting to invest the time for maybe 6 to 12 months so that they have all the time in the world that they ever want to spend with their families. So how can you afford not to do that? Like, how can you live your whole life not having those things if that's important to you and if that's part of the goal? So yeah, I mean, such an important point to talk about there, guys. So Steve, thanks for asking the question. Cordelia, thanks for your perspective on the question. Where would you see yourself, just on a different tangent, where would you see yourself now in, let's say, 12 to 18 months time, given the journey that you're on, given what you know now, given the progression you've seen in other people that are maybe, just a few months ahead of you? What does your life look like now compared to what it would have looked like if you were still in nursing or doing the eBay business?
Well, it's interesting that was your next question, because I really wanted to say there as well, which is touching on what you just said, which was about having this kind of vision in mind about not being guilty about the kids. Because I will regularly say to Syra, my eldest, she's 5, so she's quite intelligent as well, so she's able to kind of understand a fair bit of what's going on with mum working and stuff like that. And I will regularly explain to her that, in a year's time, this is what we're going to be doing, this is how we're going to be living. And that vision is that I want all my children in private school. Not because I'm some snob and there's something wrong with the normal school system, but I want my children in a class with 10 kids each. I want them to have like dedicated cookery school and a swimming pool and all this amazing stuff that they could have that is really, really cool, and get the best education they can. And I really, really want to do that. Plus, that would fit in really nicely with my lifestyle, because they get 9 weeks of summer holidays in the school that I really want to send them to. And in that 9 weeks of summer holidays, we're going travelling. We're going to just every school break, we're going to be travelling. And I want to show my children the real world. What better education is there for my kids to see the real world? And I'm not just talking like Dubai and New York and things like that. I'm talking about like Africa, India. You know, I want them to see third world countries. I want them to see, you know, modern countries. I want them to see the beauty of the world as it is, not through the TV. I really, really want that. It's a big vision for me. And it's quite interesting actually, because last night I was at the Apple store trying to get myself a MacBook Pro. I failed. But anyway, it was really interesting what happened, because outside the Apple store there was this charity, and they'd set up 2 African huts, and inside one of them was the house of a family in Sierra Leone and what it looked like, and they had their cooking equipment in there and their bed and everything. And I was like, oh, let's go and have a look, Simon. And we went in, and we ended up sponsoring a child called Abu, and he's the new member of our family. And yeah, basically we just sponsor him. We just send his family some money each month, and Syra gets to send him letters and gets to receive letters from him. And you know, it's really, really cool. And they said to me, we were having a conversation, I told them this, how I want to take Syra and the other kids. It's not just Syra. I have got 3 kids. I need to keep remembering to mention the others.
Sarah and the other 2.
Simon, Mario, and Marnie. Yeah. Take them, you know, I'd love to take them so they could see this kind of thing, you know, in real life for their education. And they actually said that we could, you know, maybe in a couple of years' time, we could go and visit our sponsored child with the charity itself. So all this kind of stuff, like these little manifestations happening like that yesterday, and all these things just keep happening to me. And like, that is my vision. I really, really want to take my kids around the world, show them the world, all the safe places of the world, and and yeah, and get them into private school and have a bigger house. We live on a main road. We've got no driveway, and there's nowhere nice to walk to. And you know, there's so many visions going on here, but those are the main ones. And so, how can you feel guilty about wanting that for your kids, eh?
Yeah, no, that's great. That's funny you mentioned that, because I've got a similar vision for my family, except that we want to sail around the world. So we already homeschool, so it's going to be easier for us to cut the cord. But we've got to get the boat and then sail around the world and show them the world that way, which I think is just going to be a fantastic way to give them an education about the world, is put them in it. So,
Steve, what would happen to the Steve and Dan show when you have no Wi-Fi on a boat in the middle of the Pacific? And what are we going to do?
It'll be no different than you in some town in the UK.
Yeah, Ashton upon Steeples, eh, Cordelia?
You spend most of your time actually in a harbor. You know, you're going to be in some harbor somewhere where you have a signal.
Yeah.
I'm imagining you on the high seas, like avoiding pirates, you know?
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll have some of that. Mostly the avoiding part. Anyway.
Yeah, can we make that the new Steve and Dan show logo? It'll be like, I don't know, you just at the helm of a ship with a cutlass, just onwards.
Yeah, we'll work on that.
That's brilliant. Yeah, we'll get one of our SFM community logo designers on it and see what they can come up with.
Well, actually, you can, in some of your travels, come aboard and we'll take you around.
Amazing. I mean, let's do it.
Yeah, we'll teach you to sail.
Yeah.
I was going to show you what he was doing. He's being really naughty.
Oh,
he's tearing the house apart because he knows that you're distracted.
Yeah.
He's like, look what I can do while you don't pay attention to me.
Oh, brilliant.
So real quick, Cordelia, piece of advice for somebody who is considering doing this, but is unsure. What would you have liked to have been told? Sounds like you just made the decision pretty quickly, but maybe before you saw Dan's video, what would you have liked to have been told? What kind of advice do you think would have helped you get over and make the decision? Hey.
I don't know. I really don't know. I think you just need to experience it. You need to experience it to believe it, to see how real it is and to understand. Because until you're in the community and getting a taste of what is available, what is actually available in the SFM back office, in terms of training, in terms of webinars, in terms of events, and until you get an absolutely until you get an actual taste of it, it's really difficult to explain that to someone. Just it's all about how it feels, and yeah.
Awesome.
I don't know who's having more fun, me or him.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Now, Cordelia, that's I think an awesome point to wrap there as well, because ultimately a lot of the stuff that we talked about, I know we talk about it in previous shows, but the reason that we talk about it and we hear these themes come up so much is because it's so damn important. And your journey and what you've shared today with everyone, that laugh. What you shared today with everyone, I think has been very inspirational. I can't wait for people to to see this and hopefully get value from it as well. Hello. So on that note, I think we'll leave you to enjoy some family time with the kids. Steve, any final thoughts before we wrap?
No, really appreciate your time, Cordelia. Awesome, very inspirational. And now that you've been totally upstaged, have a fantastic day.
Love it.
And we'll see everybody on the next one.
Sounds good. Thanks very much, guys. Speak to you soon.
Bye.